Of all the people executed by Jerry Rawlings in Ghana in 1979, only one name raised more questions and controversy than others, even after 4 decades of the execution. That name is General Akwasi Afrifa, the officer who returned Ghana to civilian rule in 1969 and was not actively involved in politics during the time of his execution. In this episode, we shall explain why his execution raises more questions and controversy in the country than others, and why Jerry Rawlings later regretted executing him, and why one of the convicted officers called him a rogue general and wanted him to be executed also. General Akwasi Amankwah Afrifa was born into a traditional Ashanti royal family, which later gave him the title Okateki, meaning valiant warrior. Afrifa was educated at Adisado College in Cape Coast, where he distinguished himself academically and developed a reputation as a disciplined young man. After completing his secondary education, he pursued military training at the Regular Officer Special Training School in Teshi and later in the United Kingdom at Mons Officer Cadet School in Aldershot, England. By the early 1960s, Afrifa had risen in the Ghana Army and earned a reputation as a competent officer with sharp political awareness. On February 24, 1966, Ghana's first president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, was overthrown in a military coup led by Colonel Emmanuel Kwasi Kotoka and General Joseph Ankra, with the support of the police under Inspector General John Hurley. Afrifa, then a major, played a critical role in the coup, particularly in Kumasi, where he commanded troops to secure the region for the new military government. The coup established the National Liberation Council (NLC), with General Joseph Ankra as head of state. Afrifa quickly rose within the council and became one of its most influential members, especially after Kotoka was assassinated in 1967 during the abortive Operation Guitar Boy coup attempt. Afrifa distinguished himself as a soldier who believed so much in Ghana's democracy. By 1969, he has become the Ghana head of state briefly and the chairman of the Presidential Commission, following the resignation of General Ankra. In August 1969, Afrifa organized presidential elections in Ghana. The Progress Party, PP, led by Dr. Kofi Abrifa-Bujo, won a majority, and on September 3, 1969, Afrifa peacefully handed over power to Bujo's civilian government. This act of handing over power voluntarily to a civilian government won Afrifa praise internationally, since it was rare at the time for military rulers in Africa to do so. After leaving power, Afrifa retired from Ghanaian politics and returned to his hometown in Mampong, where he became a farmer and businessman, living quietly in semi-retirement. He also wrote and published political reflections, in which he criticized corruption and mismanagement in Ghana politics, but was not actively involved in politics anymore. However, Ghana remained politically unstable. In January 1972, Bujo's government was overthrown by Colonel Ignatius Kutu Acheampong, and the country returned to military rule under the National Redemption Council, later the Supreme Military Council, SMC. Although Afrifa was no longer in government, he remained an influential figure within the Ashanti political and traditional circles. This influence later became one of the reasons he was viewed with suspicion by Rawlings and his revolutionary allies and other officers. By 1979, Ghana was under General Fred Akufa, head of the Supreme Military Council II, SMC-II, which had replaced General Ignatius Acheampong's government. But Ghana woes was far from over. Economic hardship, corruption, and growing discontent led to instability in the country. On May 15, 1979, a young Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings and a group of junior officers attempted a coup but failed. Rawlings and his co-conspirators were arrested and tried publicly. However, on the early morning of June 4, 1979, sympathetic junior soldiers stormed the prison, freed Rawlings, and successfully overthrew General Akufa's SMC-II's regime. Rawlings took power and established the Armed Forces Revolutionary Council, the AFRC, and launched what they called the house cleaning exercise. The AFRC claimed that Ghana's woes were due to corrupt past leaders, both military and civilian, who had looted the country's wealth. Names of corrupt senior officers were listed down. Among them were 2 former heads of state, General Ignatius Acheampong and General Fred Akufa. Only one former Ghana head of state was not considered or deemed fit to be on the list. That was General Akwasi Afrifa, Ghana's second military head of state and the man who voluntarily returned Ghana to civilian rule in 1969. Initially, Afrifa was not considered one of the AFRC's main targets since he had long retired. However, during the FRC deliberations, one of the condemned officers in Rawling's presence branded him a rogue general. The argument was that Afrifa had been part of Ghana's coup culture, beginning in 1966. He was part of the old elite who benefited from the state resources. His close ties with Ashanti chiefs and political figures made him a symbol of the establishment. This denunciation sealed Afrifa's fate. He was arrested at his home in Krobomampon and brought to Accra to face a military tribunal. On June 26, 1979, General Afrifa and 5 other senior officers were executed by firing squad at the Teshi military firing range near Accra. Those executed with him were General Ignatius Kutu Achempong, the head of state, 1972 to 1978. General Fred Akufa, head of state, 1978 to 1979. Rear Admiral Joy Amadume. Major General Robert Kotiai. Air Vice Marshal George Obokai. Eyewitness accounts say Afrifa appeared calm. Clad in white cloth, he prayed before being tied to the stakes. When the firing squad opened fire, he faced death with composure. Their bodies were later buried in unmarked graves. It was not until the 1990s, under Rawling's civilian government, that Afrifa's remains were returned to his family for burial in his hometown. General Afrifa remains one of the most controversial figures in Ghana's history. Praised for handing over power to civilians in 1969, showing rare democratic spirit among African military rulers. Criticized for his involvement in Ghana's first coup in 1966, which destabilized the country's post-independence trajectory. Tragically remembered for being executed in 1979 despite having been out of politics for years. A victim of Ghana's cycle of revolutionary purges. Today, Afrifa is often remembered in Ashanti as a patriot and martyr, while in Ghanaian political history he stands as a symbol of both promise and the failures of military intervention in governance. Afrifa was a soldier, head of state, and a farmer, who handed power to civilians in 1969. Retired from politics, he lived quietly until Rawling's FRC coup in 1979, when he was accused of being part of Ghana's corrupt old guard. After being branded a rogue general by a condemned officer, his name was added to the list of those to be executed. On June 26, 1979, he was executed by firing squad, cementing his place in Ghana's turbulent political history.